What's up, everyone? And welcome to Metalcore Nerds. Today, we are talking about all about Black Widow. I am your host, Sean Mott, and this is the podcast. If you're new to it, if you're not, it's cool either way. This is the podcast where we take people from the heavy music world and we talk about pop culture. And today, I have an awesome panel. First off, we have Mike from No Bragging Rights. What is up?
What's up? How you guys doing?
Doing great. Great to have you. No Bragging Rights, as most of you should know, coming out with some new music this year, maybe.
Yes, this year.
Awesome.
Barely before the year end.
I've heard some of it, and it's great. So be very excited for that. We also have the first woman guest on the podcast, Meredith Henderson from Victims. They just released a new album that fucking rules. Did super well in billboards. They're about to go on tour with Born Anew and many more awesome things. How are you doing, Meredith?
I'm doing well. How are you? How's everyone out there?
Doing good. Ready to talk about.
Thanks for having me. I'm ready.
No problem. I'm very, very happy to have you on it. And last but certainly not least, a new friend of mine, thanks to Austin, another Austin, weirdly enough, is Austin from the band The Undertaking. They're on Solid State Records. They actually have, is this your first show back tomorrow, right? Hometown show?
Yeah, it's our first real show. We played a couple warehouse, like underground stuff, but this is the first one in a venue with a real sound system. So we're stoked to get on a real stage and be able to hear ourselves, you know?
I respect the DIY grind. Not going to lie.
Oh, dude, we'll never give it up, but we're stoked to play a real venue for sure.
Fair. Very, very fair. So we are here to talk about Black Widow, but before we get into the Black Widow talk, I wanted to see everyone's kind of love or knowledge base of the MCU, and do not feel ashamed if it is low. This is not to shame people. I just want to see where everyone's fan level is, or maybe even what got you into the MCU and everything like that. I love hearing these kinds of stories. They're my favorite to find out from. So Austin, we'll go with you first. I'm pretty sure you're a pretty big nerd and you probably watch all of these, but let's hear it from your perspective on this.
That's a good assumption, dude. So yeah, I'm at some point I'm just gonna embrace it. I'm a pretty big fan. Being in San Diego, we go to Comic-Con every year, and so like right now should be Comic-Con, and that just like rips our heart out because it's just like nerd central and just the coolest thing ever. So we're like super sad that that's not the case. I think I've seen all the MCU movies in theater. I think I didn't think like the first Captain America was cool at the time, so I didn't see that one.
Right.
And then West Coast, I stay up till midnight to watch like the shows because I have like super FOMO and I can't stay off the internet. So if I like don't watch the show like right away, I'm gonna spoil it somehow. So I love it.
That's very fair. Funny enough, I was in San Diego the year that Marvel had that crazy announcement, but I was there. I was in LA for business. Well, it was mostly for the Ghost Inside comeback show, but then I stayed a week later to like meet with record labels and bands and stuff, and I had a tour, Ghost Key and Distinguisher, and they were playing in San Diego, so I took the train down to San Diego and went to the show, and it was like me and the singer of Ghost Key were like, dude, you see what they just announced, like before the show, like the whole time, because we were like down the street from it pretty much, just not there.
Comic-Con is a wild beast. I don't know if you guys have ever been, but it's fun. You just see movie stars all over the place, and there's just a ton of excitement. If you're ever out in San Diego around that time, just even going down to the Gaslamp quarters is just a blast because you like never know who you're gonna run into.
Yeah, it's a bucket list item for me. That and New York Comic-Con, which is a lot closer than San Diego, but still not close, I guess. It's weird because where I live in New York, it's easier to go to Boston or Philly than it is to New York City.
Yeah.
Just because it's a pain to get in the city, pretty much. Most of the time, we drive to Poughkeepsie and then take a train in because it's easier than trying to drive into and then drive in New York City. Not very easy. Meredith, what is your overall level of love for the MCU, or what got you into the MCU?
I've seen all the movies. from in theaters, just like Austin said. I have to rewatch everything though now in chronological order. I feel like I've missed so much. Like,
Yeah.
if that makes sense, because like obviously all the shows that are happening now. I just finished Loki, and that was probably my favorite out of like the whole the
Same.
4 shows spin-offs or 3, whatever it is. And I was like, man, I have to rewatch because like all these shows are placed in between like the movies, so it's like.
Yep.
I forget so much things that have happened already. So I was like, I gotta watch like the first Iron Man and like all
Oh,
those,
yeah.
like the first ones. I remember obviously like Endgame and
Yeah.
all the Avengers films. Those are like easy, but like the Winter Soldier was one of my favorites. Obviously, that was a great one.
Same.
But the first Captain America is kind of even a thought out of my head. Like, you gotta rewatch them. But yeah, I love the MCU. I think the only movies that I'm not too fond of, which people are gonna hate me for, but the Spider-Man ones. I wasn't huge into them, man.
You're
Just
actually
can't do it.
not in the minority. It seems like Spider-Man Twitter is a very scary place, and I see some of it, and it's an awful place. Not saying you belong with those people, because I don't think you do, but a lot of people don't like Tom Holland's Spider-Man, which to me, I think he's the best Spider-Man in my opinion.
I
or
like Tom Holland.
you just like
I
the
hate
movies?
The villains. The villains and like
Oh.
the plot's too Disney for me, dude. Like,
Interesting.
I don't know what it was. Like,
I
they
thought
had
Vulture
the
was like
Vulture.
was one of like the
I don't
best
know.
villains. I loved him.
I
That
love
scene in the
Michael- I
car.
love Michael Keaton, but
It's so good.
oh man.
And I mean, look, I'm not gonna pick fights already, but Jake Gyllenhaal is great too.
Okay, Jake
Yeah.
Gyllenhaal. I thought
Mysterio was
Mysterio
incredible.
cool.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. When he's
But
like yelling at his people, I love it.
William Dafoe though, I'll never like the Green Goblin. William Dafoe. That
He is.
I don't know. That's still my favorite Spider-Man movie. The first one.
Okay.
I know the second one is kind of the consensus, but
Yeah.
I like the first one. I can quote the whole movie.
Yeah, I
He's
actually
so
I did
all
a
the time.
I did a podcast episode of the whole Sam Raimi trilogy with Austin from Ghost Key. So I have them very recent in my mind. And I like the first one a lot. It's just a lot of the stuff in it, like effects and movie wise, don't hold up. It's just you can like super tell because this is the early 2000s. But the second one, if you put it out yesterday,
real.
I would have been like,
So,
dude, that movie holds up everything in it.
well, they're bringing him back.
Yeah,
Doc
that's the
Ock
root.
was-
It's the big.
Oh.
Well, the big rumor is Alfred Molina is confirmed. Jamie Foxx is confirmed. There's been 20,000 rumors about the new Spider-Man movie at this point, but Willem Dafoe is one of those very strong rumors of him coming back, which I am down
Yeah,
for.
same. I also like Dane. What's Dane?
Oh, Dane
did
Whitman or
Yeah, I
Dane
thought
DeHaan. Dane DeHaan.
He did
Yeah.
really good and amazing, like Spider-Man, and then the Gwen Stacy scene I thought was like
Wild.
prime. I know.
Oh,
It's the only good part of the movie.
my friend Rob, he brought up the Spider-Man video game for PS4. He said that's his favorite Spider-Man, and that's a good ass Spider-Man.
I thought you were gonna the PlayStation 2 Spider-Man game that came out. That was like the first open world Spider-Man, and you could like literally do whatever you wanted to. That one was so good. But yes, they're great.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, if anyone has a PlayStation and hasn't played the Spider-Man Miles Morales games, play them because they're unbelievable. And you just swing around New York and do whatever you want. And the stories are honestly amazing. They're so good. But Mike, your MCU love, hit me with it.
It's high. I've seen all the movies in theaters. Even on tour, I'd make it a point to like bail from the show as soon as you're done. Just a quick little story. When Thor came out, we were in Canada somewhere, and I told the guys I'm going to the midnight showing, and so Rick, our bassist at the time, he's like, I'll go with you. It's like 6. So we go, and it's like sold out. So all they have is 3D. So and it's extra, and normally not a big deal, but Rick has one eye, so he had to pay extra to not really see it in 3D. And
oh my god,
you can laugh, it's fine.
No, it's like that's like sad.
No,
that is sad.
It's pretty funny. Pretty
He's like, "Oh, I'll go with you," and then like can't
Yeah.
even watch and enjoy the movie.
yeah,
Oh
and you had to
my
pay
God.
extra.
uh,
But
Damn.
anyway, so yeah, I love the MCU. I love the shows. Um, I have to like really learn to like stop trying to guess because I think WandaVision I ruined it for myself. I ruined it for myself because I had all the I was like, oh, they're gonna introduce Reed Richards, they're gonna do all this stuff,
Yeah.
and then I was super disappointed. And then when I rewatched it with like, just not with the expectations not being what I thought, and I enjoyed it a lot more when I just like,
Yeah.
watched it for what it was. Loki was sick. Loki is I cannot wait for the season 2.
yeah.
Yeah.
And-
I totally agree with you. It's funny because I've been doing after shows on all the Marvel shows, and pretty much those shows are me and whoever the co-host is predicting what's going to come next. It's a big part of it.
Dude,
And
it's hard not to.
the thing with me, which is I think it's just a me thing, is that I don't care if I'm proven wrong in that stuff. I like welcome it. It happened to me big in the Falcon the Winter Soldier. I went on a tirade saying Sharon was not going to be the power broker. Like an ultimate tirade. I was like, there is no fucking way that's going to happen. Then it happened, and I was like, I mean, gonna take the L on that one. So
Taking that out.
I was pretty mad about it, and not because I was mad, because I hated how it was done story-wise. It wasn't because I was wrong. It was seriously because I hated how they story-wise how they did it. I was like, she's the worst crime boss ever. I was like, she's terrible. I was like, she led them to the person who made the serum. I was like, who would do that? But the end credit scene kind of, I was like, if they're gonna play the long game with this, I'm okay with it, because I don't like to judge things, because a lot of people like to judge things like an episode in or 2 episodes in. I was like, see it out before you say you don't like it. I was like, wait until they tell you the full story and then decide if you don't like it. And if you don't, cool. And that's what's the hardest thing about the MCU is it's hard to be like, I hate this one moment, because 10 years from now, something's going to happen that's going to completely change that moment. In the past like 3 years, they've done so much to make Thor: The Dark World important, which is one of the most commonly hated MCU movies of all time. And they just keep bringing stuff in like, yeah, this movie's important, so deal with it. It's the hardest thing to be like, yeah, I don't like this, because nothing is contained, especially not now. Everything is a branch they're setting out to set something up 10 years from now or 5 years from now or something like that. So that's what I love about it, because there's nothing like it. Star Wars, I guess, is like the next closest thing, I guess. But even that, it's like they've only done half of the stuff MCU has, and they've been around for 40 years. And in 12 years, the MCU's already put out like 3 or 4 times as much content as them.
And so they're just getting started.
Yes,
just getting started. They haven't even introduced the X-Men yet. They haven't introduced Fantastic Four. All the Fantastic Four's villains, like it's crazy. It's crazy what the MCU has done and what they're going to continue to do now. Like, it's insane.
Absolutely bonkers. So many people are like, "Where are they going to go after Endgame?" I was like, they haven't
Anywhere
even,
they want.
I was like, they haven't even scratched the surface. I was like, of the stuff they can base all this on. I was like, I was saying Secret Wars pretty much after Endgame, because I read it a few years ago, the 2015 version of it, and I was like, multiverse. I was like, it's gonna end. I was like, that's gonna be the next Endgame. And now everyone's like, yeah, them saying multiversal war and Loki is pretty much the start to Secret Wars. And if it's anything like the comics, which it won't be because it's the MCU, but it's gonna be crazy. Like, it's gonna make Endgame look tame.
Is Secret Wars the one with like zombies and stuff, right?
Yes, there is. Yeah, there is a part with zombies.
Yeah, sick.
There's
That's
also
where they form the Illuminati, right? Where they start going to the other worlds and like killing off people, like the other worlds to protect their own.
I think Illuminati has something to do with the lead up to it. Because Reed is one of the people that like gets out of it. It's pretty much like the multiverse is crashing in on itself, and he makes a ship, and he makes it out with like 5 people. It's like him, Star-Lord, I think Miles, Black Panther, and maybe like 1 or 2 other people. And they basically go into this crazy alternate universe where Doctor Doom is God, and he stole the Fantastic Four, Reed Richards' family. Doctor Strange is his right-hand man. Galactus guards his castle. He has an army of Thors. It's when I say it's crazy, it is crazy.
Yeah.
It's the most. There's a scene where Thanos shows up, and he just rips Thanos' skull and spine out of his body. That's the scene. He shows up to confront Doom, and he just does that, and it's over. It's crazy. It's like that. There's like a famous Kang panel going around where Kang does something very similar, and I always post the Doom one too, and I was like, I love these because everyone's like,
okay, we're gonna get it. We're gonna get into Black Widow eventually.
Yes,
so
we will.
Everybody hold on.
It'll get there.
We will get there.
You guys, which has a bigger implication on the MCU proper, the introduction of the Fantastic Four or the introduction of the X-Men?
Oh.
I think X-Men, because I think they're waiting on the X-Men because they can make mutants the backbone of a whole saga by themselves. Do I think they're going to wait 10 years to introduce them? No, definitely not. But I think mutants are going to be like the next Avengers eventually. Not in the distant future, but in like that's another whole game plan. I think that's why they haven't said anything about it. They haven't even know like Wanda has been known as a mutant, and the kind of Quicksilver thing that wasn't Quicksilver in WandaVision.
Yeah.
I don't want to get into that. It's a long conversation. They haven't said the word mutant yet. It's because I think they're waiting for a good reason. But that's going to be a huge. I mean, the Fantastic Four is going to be a very big deal too. But we already know that's coming. We don't know when, but we know it's coming. But they haven't. I think Feige has said the word mutants once. Just to be like, yeah, mutants are coming eventually.
I agree with you because I think just from a pop culture standpoint, people love the X-Men, but something about Reed Richards showing up and Mr. Fantastic showing up in the world like opens up so many different things because he's so smart and powerful and like always like behind the scenes and stuff. So I'm so stoked.
Me too. I think he's going to carry the torch for like Tony Stark. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
now that we don't have a Tony Stark, he's going to be that kind of figure in this world.
I can't wait.
Especially with everything that's just going to be beyond fucked for everything in the MCU. It's so funny because we're all excited about the end of Loki, but in reality, the MCU is just beyond fucked. It's just like completely doomed. And we're all just like, yeah, pain.
Yeah.
It's crazy because like all of the, I think besides Loki and Black Widow, they're the only properties since Endgame that haven't made me bawl my eyes out. They've both made me like teary-eyed, but they didn't get me to full tears. And I'll talk about the Black Widow moment once we get to it. But the other ones made me just like lose it. Like WandaVision, done. Far From Home with the Tony stuff, done. Because it was like months after Endgame, so it's just fresh, And they just bring that up, and I'm like Tom Holland crying, and I just want to hug him. Terrible. The Isaiah Bradley stuff in Falcon Winter Soldier made me bawl. Even seeing Sam as Captain America kind of made me cry. I was like, man, this is beautiful. It's just, I had my problems with that show, but overall the highs in that show were so high that I didn't even care about the stuff that kind of didn't add up. But I also think there was a lot of stuff with COVID that kind of restricted them, and they had to redo stuff, so it's like not really their fault either. So it's hard.
I was fully convinced that Omega Red was going to show up in that one. That's why I was pissed at that show. I thought Omega Red was coming for sure.
That's what everyone's like. The mutant's going to show up in this next show for sure. Yeah. That's what everyone thinks. I mean, apparently there was a mutant in this movie, according to the actor that played him. Yeah. I don't really hold much credit to that until Kevin Feige goes, yes, he was the first mutant in the MCU, which I do not think he was, but he could be a mutant in the MCU. But But all right, let's
what? I'm on what?
There's a guy who arm wrestled Red Guardian in the prison, and he claims, he posted, he's like, oh, I am this mutant character from the comics, and I'm the first mutant in the MCU. And I was like, I believe that you are a mutant, and maybe it'll later be revealed that you were, but I do not believe you were the first one in the MCU. I refuse to believe that one.
Watch it comes back like years later.
It would, it would. Now that I have said that, it's gonna happen. Of course. I will say I was right about Kang, and I am very close to being right about something that we will talk about that comes from this movie, and I was right about something else, but that doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter what I was right about. I love being proved wrong, honestly. I didn't even guess what Endgame was going to be about, and they just I was like, cool. I didn't know any of this was gonna happen. I think the only thing I figured that Cap or Tony would die, but
Yeah.
it's not like that affected anything when it happened. I did not think it was gonna be them in this crazy battle with all the portals and Thanos from the past. Like when they killed Thanos in the first like 5 minutes, I was like, where the fuck are they gonna go after this?
Yeah.
I was like, what? So
That was one of my favorite storytelling devices that the MCU has done. That was like such a cool moment because then you're like, okay, we still have like 3 hours left of the
Yeah.
movie, and it felt like everything was just like on the table. That was so
yeah,
cool.
that's my favorite thing about that and Infinity War is that the opening scenes of those movies completely set the tone for the rest of the movie in
Yeah.
a way that no one
Yep.
expected.
Dude,
Yeah.
the 5 years later, that for me, well, I like the theater like gasped. I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sam looked at me and
I'm a
she's like,
huge,
what the fuck?
I'm a huge fan of The Leftovers, and so I don't know if you guys have watched the show on HBO. Damon Lindelof. I highly recommend it. It's 3 seasons of almost like perfect television, just grief and trauma. Like 2% of the world disappears, and so I love that the MCU pulled a lot of themes from that with people disappearing. And same thing with Wanda Vision, how there's like a lot of a meditation on grief and trauma. And those themes are so good when they can pull it off. And so anytime somebody references what The Leftovers did, I'm like all for it.
I've always wanted to watch that because I love Damon Lindelof. He did the Watchmen series, which is one of the most perfect seasons of television ever.
Dude.
It's
Watchmen.
You need
unreal.
to do me a huge favor. You need to watch it. If you
I will.
loved his
I'm gonna watch it.
Watchmen, like it's so good.
I love things that are really depressing. So it sounds right up
Yeah,
my alley.
same.
This is it. This is it.
Give me the
Perfect.
sadness.
Yeah, I want to kind of piggyback off what you were saying about how WandaVision centered off grief. It seems like they are, at least in everything they've released in Phase 4, a lot of them have been centered on like a core kind of value. Like WandaVision was grief. Falcon the Winter Soldier was kind of like purpose and like self-acceptance. And obviously it had the big racial issues that were attached to it. Loki was very much about purpose and finding oneself and knowing your real worth rather than what you think you were supposed to do. And Black Widow is very much about family, not just the family you were born with or the family you grew up knowing, but the family you meet along the way. And this is probably my favorite thing about the metalcore hardcore scene is that a lot of people that you meet throughout the years become your extended family. That's why I love going to fests. That's why I love going to anything like that, where it's just people from all over the world that you see once or twice a year, but you talk to them like you talk to them every day. It's like my favorite part about that kind of friendship you make throughout music is that, you know, you can not talk to someone for months, but then you talk to someone just texting you out of the blue being like, yo, did you see this thing? Or like, oh, check this out. And it's like you talk every day. And I really love that. And I really loved seeing that kind of dynamic in a Marvel movie, and kind of the fact that they are focusing on those kind of things, like not more important, but they're really giving you more things to attach to personally than I think they did before. Obviously, everyone kind of got like an emotional attachment by the end of Endgame and stuff like that. Like we've been watching these characters for over a decade, but now they're even adding more layers onto that, especially with these series. But this movie was kind of a long time coming. Black Widow's been in the MCU since Iron Man 2. Long time. People have been asking for this for a while. A lot of people kind of complain that this movie came too late. I didn't personally feel that way, but I can understand that kind of mindset about it. But I wanted to hear everyone's overall thoughts and Natasha's journey throughout the MCU. The stakes were kind of taken away because we knew the period of this movie. We knew that she comes to die years later, so we knew she kind of wasn't going to die in this movie. But I did love the emotional beats throughout of it. But I want to hear your guys' thoughts on the movie overall, because I know kind of the consensus online has been not super divided, but it was kind of like it was okay or I really liked it. That seems to be the general consensus I've seen, at least. But Mike, let's go with you first. What were your overall thoughts on Black Widow and Natasha's journey throughout the MCU?
My overall thoughts. So I think had this movie come out like right when the other ones came out, I would have probably been a little harder on it, I think. but I think the fact that this is the first Marvel movie in like 2 years or something,
Yeah.
I feel like I gave it a little bit more of a pass. I did like the family beats. Like I liked that Natasha basically was saying when she was basically telling Yolanda that like this wasn't real. This wasn't a real family for me. And then her right away being like, "Well, the Avengers aren't your real family." And you could kind of tell that she's like she knew that would hurt her
Right.
back. But I don't know. I think it was a cool enough kind of way to end it. Is this a send off for her? Like, are we not
Yeah.
going to see?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think this is it.
So
No.
I know.
I have a thought on that though. When they leave her at the end and then it flashes like 2 weeks later, there's a whole movie in that 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So they
You have a
could
point.
definitely do a Black Widow 2, because they could do just like almost like little vignettes of like how she escapes General Ross and stuff. So when they cut to
Fair.
black, I was like, oh, there's another movie here, because then we get to her with her blonde hair and all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. And there's even a lead up to then how she connects to Cap and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I think that would be super dope to keep like playing around in that universe if people want it. But
That's why
Yeah.
I was
way
gonna
more story
I was gonna
stuff.
add to that too. I was like, they could do a whole movie from what happens to when Cap breaks, Sam out and everyone, and when they meet up in Infinity War.
Yeah.
Because there's like 2 years or something, at least,
Yeah.
Yep.
of them just kind of going around. They cover a little bit of it in a prequel comic that is like Marvel does all these prequel comics for a lot of the movies that are considered canon. And they have touched on it a little bit. It's called like Nick Fury's Big Week, and it ties like all these events before Infinity War, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, cool.
And they kind of mention it, but it's more of like they see them in the jet and they kind of meet with them, saying that Fury had contact with them, and that was really it. But yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. I guess the one thing to look at is how it's doing financially, which it's
It
doing
wasn't.
very well. It's weird. It's a weird box office thing because obviously it's not totally back to business box office wise. Some people still don't want to go to theaters. Some theaters still aren't open 100%. So, but what it did, I mean, it had an $80 million opening weekend domestically, which has been the biggest one since Rise of Skywalker, which is no surprise for a Marvel movie. Even in normal Marvel movie money, it's still pretty good. It's not like the best or the worst, but it's still pretty good. And it had, which Disney releases information, so it could be false, but I don't really know why they would lie about it. But opening weekend, they said to have gotten 60 million from Disney Plus Premier Access, which would make sense. And right now it's sitting at just box office. It's sitting at 278 million plus, which another weekend is coming up. And that's without the Disney Plus money, which they make more off the Disney Plus money than the theater money. So that to them is worth more than these numbers anyway, in the grand scheme of things. The only thing that sucks is that they had the biggest second week drop off of any Marvel movie ever.
Off. Yeah.
Which could be due to the pandemic. The Delta variant is happening, so people are even more skeptical to go out again, even though people are going out again. My wife is a manager for a Hot Topic in one of the biggest malls in America, and people still go outside. So I know they go. So maybe they just don't want to sit in the theater for 2 hours. But they do have the Disney Plus, and they haven't reported any more numbers since the first weekend. Whether if it's bad numbers or whatever, who knows? I think they just did that to kind of say, hey, it still did really well opening weekend in these crazy times. And with this, here's the numbers for this. I think that's why, because it's the only numbers they've released with Disney Plus ever for anything from any of the number of movies that they've released through Premier Access. So right now at this point, I think they've already made their money back at least. So it's not like a flop, and it's kind of hard to gauge it against any other Marvel movies because of what's going on. It's it's very hard to compare it apples to that stuff. But I would be very interested to see a Black Widow 2 if they ended up doing it. That'd be kind of cool. I don't know if everyone else would, but I like these kind of... Kevin Feige did hint at there might be more of these kind of period piece movies that for the most part, don't really affect the overall future of the MCU, but they give cool information, because that's one of my favorite parts about this movie is it filled in a lot of gaps and answered a lot of questions.
Yeah.
So I'd be down for it. Did you have any more thoughts to add on your overall thoughts, Mike?
Kind of what Austin was saying too. I mean, there's so many, especially with Natasha. There's like different stories. Like you could show clips of when she was almost killed by the Winter Soldier. You know, there's
that'd be great.
They can go into explain like what the hell happened at that safe house, because she's like, Yelena's like, what kind of bullets would do this, and she's like, those were arrows. So it's like, well, what happened? Why, what went down in there? So I don't know. I feel like they can do a lot. I feel like they can still keep her around and have her just either show up in other people's movies where they explain. Like what if we get a Hawkeye movie and like it explains some of, you could easily bring her back and have her be a big present in it. So
yeah, we definitely got the cliff notes of Budapest and not the full thing.
Right.
Yeah.
They kind of like half answered it, which it could come into play with the Hawkeye series. Maybe they show her more like flashback shots that explain more of it from like his perspective. Maybe, I don't really know. I guess we'll see, and we'll talk more about the Hawkeye series because something very important happens that leads into that. Austin, what is more of your overall thoughts in the movie? I know you gave us on what we could see possibly from another movie, but what'd you think about this movie?
I dug it. Because there's like the nostalgia piece where this was the first movie I've seen in the theaters for 2 years, basically. So there was something fun about that. My gripe on that was we saw it at like 2:00 on a Monday, and the theater was basically empty. And so there's that piece that was missing where we used to go at Thursday, like one of the first showings. Yeah. There's a theater here in Escondido where we live that it like always packs out, and there's that visceral vibe of seeing a Marvel movie and the response from the audience. And you can go on YouTube and see the moment when like Cap picks up the hammer and like the theater is just like popping. So I think that there was something like visceral about watching the movie that was missing because there wasn't this like community aspect to it. But the past year and a half has kind of trained us to watch a lot of this stuff on our own. So anyway, my biggest complaint, to be honest, is that the shows maybe. So we met Kang, and this movie came out the same week, and like Kang is a bigger deal, but this movie was supposed to come out a year ago. So what are we supposed to do with that information? Like kind of turn your brain off and have fun with the movie. So on that level, like I loved it. I think this is their kind of Mission Impossible kind of Bourne Identity series where you have like the face swaps and kind of like this team that gets together to do like an impossible mission. So I love that they can kind of adapt their movie to a different genre. And I dug it. I thought the casting, like Marvel's casting, is just always so impeccable. So I'll sit there and watch David Harbour, Florence Pugh, Rachel Weisz, like do like anything. Like that's they crush it.
Yeah, I've listened to a few podcasts over the last few weeks about them just talking about Marvel in general, because a lot of people are talking about now with the shows happening, and it's kind of like 2 movies basically spread out over like a month and a half. Because all of these shows have been kind of close to 6 hours worth of content, just split up different ways. And most of them are going to be 6 episodes, but I know like She-Hulk's going to be like 10 episodes, but all half an hour, stuff like that. So they're all going to be around the same, but still it's like double the amount of time as a movie would be. So they obviously have a lot more time to fit in these character beats that we've been getting. And I think they're going to kind of turn into more of like the spectacle pieces. And it's hard with this one because I know a lot of people's big complaints were, hey, this didn't really set anything up for the future, which I get, yes, but there is a certain scene that we'll talk about later that definitely does set up a big part of the future. But I get it. Like I said, there was very little stakes because we knew Natasha's fate was eventually to come later, not in this movie. But like you said, it's and I saw another meme and it was like Marvel movies are now, and it was like Doctor Strange floating in the multiverse from Doctor Strange, and then it was like it was just Steve Rogers in a baseball hat saying, it's like half the movies are going to be weird, crazy space multiverse time travel stuff, and the other half are going to be like very grounded spy like the Winter Soldier and the Falcon and the Winter Soldier in this movie. They all kind of had that same vibe. I mean, parts of the Falcon Winter Soldier felt like a John Wick movie, kind of.
Yeah.
Not that violent, but for Disney, very violent. And this movie had a lot of brutal scenes. Like the first scene with Natasha and Yelena fighting, I was like, damn, like they are like beating the fuck out of each other. I was like, Jesus Christ.
Well,
I like that though.
That might be my complaint too, where they almost kind of went like halfway. And so like the scene when they're falling out of the Red Room and it's Black Widow fighting with Taskmaster, like that scene had so much potential for them to keep like jumping to different parts.
True.
And then like as soon as you're like, oh, we should be falling longer, they land on the ground and then they're both like injured. And you're like, oh no, like I wanted more of that.
Yeah.
And I think that it left us wanting a little bit. Because
That's
it would have been like cool to have like more of that scene. Like, sorry, Star Wars, when Ahsoka jumps down from the ship and like makes it to the Earth in Rebels or whatever, the Clone Wars. Like
Yep.
that's what I wanted from that, where Black Widow is just like hopping from debris to debris and like shows how cool she is. But anyway.
that's fair. I think it might have just been hard to film. Because I
Oh,
know
totally.
they filmed a lot of that with like skydivers and shit. And I was like,
Really?
how do you
Oh,
do
no.
that? Like, it was like,
They need Tom Cruise, man. Just put
Tom
Tom Cruise in your movie.
you're
He'll
not
do
wrong.
it.
Yeah, they do need Tom Cruise. He knows all the crazy shit.
Oh my God.
So something quick about like stakes for this movie. So because I knew Natasha doesn't die in this, I was waiting for somebody in the family to die.
Yeah.
The whole time, and then,
Fair.
when they did it, I was like stoked, but at the same time, I was like, oh, dude, I was so worried for nothing. Like I thought for sure they were gonna kill, the parents or something, or I
Right.
thought somebody was gonna die. No,
That's fair.
Bro,
That is a very fair
Marvel
point.
doesn't kill anybody. Marvel doesn't kill
Yeah,
anybody.
no.
They
Not
they
true.
killed the bad guys.
They've killed a lot of people.
They killed the bad guys, which is a mistake.
Yes, that is
Okay,
that
that's valid. They don't
that
kill
is a mistake,
heroes.
which they've been good of not doing as of late. Because He
Yeah.
Who Remains doesn't count because we're just about to get a million
Right,
of them, so that one doesn't
Right.
really count. But they've been doing a very good job of not killing the villain, which is good. I like that. I like it because like everyone's like, oh, I hope Tony Stark comes back because it's multiverse. I was like, no, he's dead. Keep him dead. I was okay with Loki. I was okay with Loki because it doesn't take from that moment of him dying in Infinity War because this isn't the same Loki.
No.
In a sense, it's not the same
Yeah.
one. He's experienced some of the same things, but it's not the same one. It's the same with Gamora, which that Gamora is running around somewhere. Somehow the TVA let her go. I don't really know why, but she's running around somewhere. Guess TVA can't catch her. I don't know. That's like there's a couple TVA questions I have, but that's a completely different conversation.
It'll probably get answered, though, I'm sure.
I'm
Yeah.
sure
Like,
they
maybe
will
season
definitely
2 or
answer.
something,
Yeah,
but
for sure. Meredith, what were your overall thoughts on the movie? Was this your first movie back to the theaters too?
no, I watched this lame romantic comedy like with no name actors.
What was it?
I don't remember what it's called. That's how bad it was. It was terrible. It was like one of the worst movies I've ever seen, and I was like, man, what a letdown. So this is my second movie in theaters. I'm gonna pretend like it was my first, but
Yeah.
Fair.
I like this movie. I'm gonna touch on kind of what Austin said. It didn't. They like swapped genres. I feel like I wasn't watching like a Marvel movie per se, and like at least for me until like the Red Guardian, like it's like introduced and all that. But in the beginning of it, it just didn't. It felt like a Mission Impossible movie, like straight up, or like a James Bond movie, but just with like female fronted like roles, which I thought was cool because they don't really do that much. Like you always hear about Captain America, and you're always hearing about Tony Stark and Spider-Man. It was just nice to see like someone like a female being like the prominent role for once. And like I don't think this will be the last time we see like Scarlett Johansson or Black Widow, just because I feel like she's such like a big part of the MCU and just like some of people's favorite character like underlining. So I don't know. That's just my personal opinion. But I liked the movie. It wasn't like top 5,
No.
but it was definitely not like bad by any means. I think it kind of strayed away from the feeling of a Marvel movie, which you can give or take that, but
Right.
I mean, I liked it. especially just coming back, finally seeing a movie again, like in theaters, and like just hearing all the effects. And I thought the effects were really well done. Like some of the most like badass effects Marvel has had in the few years, besides like Endgame and stuff. But
Yeah, those are kind of incomparable when they make a
well,
huge
yeah,
purple
that's
dude look like a real being.
besides like Endgame.
Did they de-age Rachel Weisz, or does she look? Is
I
that how
think
she looks?
I think she just looks like that.
Damn.
I
Good
know
for
they
her.
they de-aged Ross. They definitely de-aged him
Yeah.
Mhm.
for sure.
I
But
thought
I think
they
it's the only
de-aged
one.
them in the beginning, like when the movie's in 1994,
Oh,
5 or
yes.
whatever. I
Yeah.
felt like they were de-aged a little bit in that, right?
Oh yeah, they probably
I-
weren't that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Cause like, I mean, if she
Bro,
wasn't, man, it's good for her.
Regardless, they're getting so good at that technology.
know.
Like it's
Yeah.
seamless
It's scary.
at this point.
It is scary. I mean, even the Nick Fury and Captain Marvel was pretty damn good. I was like,
Yeah.
I was like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
My Sam, my wife, brought up kind of the same points you did. This movie to her was what she wanted Captain Marvel to be. I don't hate Captain Marvel. I don't hate any of the MCU movies. They're just movies I like better. Captain Marvel's. I tried to do a ranking like last week, and it's so hard because I
It's
need
hard.
to do a full. I did a rewatch before Infinity War, but I need to do another full rewatch. In the middle, because this movie Black Widow lands in like the middle for me, which is not a bad
Agreed.
thing because
Yeah.
there's so many middle movies that you could ask me on different parts of the same day and I would switch. So you being in the middle of that pack of the MCU is very high praise to me. As far as solo films, debut solo films, it's pretty high, I would say. But to her, she was like, yeah, this is what I want Captain Marvel to be, because it had like emotion to it. Because that was the biggest thing, is the most things I liked about Captain Marvel really weren't Captain Marvel. It was the Skrull stuff, and it was kind of like a Nick Fury origin movie in a way too, which I loved.
Yeah.
But it's hard to connect with Captain Marvel because she didn't even know who she was the whole movie. So there's nothing to really connect to at all. And that's what she was expecting more out of it as the first female-fronted MCU movie. And she didn't get that out of that one. And she got it out of this one. So she was happy. She was like, this is what I wanted that movie to be. She's like, I loved it. So it was
I
cool
like
to hear
Black Widow
another
more
woman's perspective.
than Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
Personally.
And she's also like a
Can we
space god, kind of. So it's kind of hard.
The caveat to your ranking is that all MCU movies are better than the DC movies. So that's just like a whole different caveat.
No.
Depends what DC.
No.
If you say DCEU,
man.
I would agree with most of it. But
Dark
DC
Knight is still the
period?
best
Yeah.
superhero movie.
The
Dark
current
Knight.
DC cinematic universe.
Okay, yes. But
Most of
Dark
them, yes.
Knight,
Yes.
Nothing will ever top Dark Knight ever.
It's
Or
weird.
Batman Begins, like.
I mean,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah, it's one of my favorite trilogies ever, but also Captain America trilogy is one of my favorite trilogies ever, so it's tricky.
Winter Soldier's right there.
Yeah.
It's up there.
It's I have like a argument in my mind of what's the best superhero movie, and it's, if I had to pick 4, I would have no doubt that would be The Dark Knight, Logan, probably Endgame, just because of all the things that encapsulated,
Yes.
and Into the Spider-Verse. That's my top, probably my top 4. So in any given day, I could pick either one of them. The thing that's most impressive about Dark Knight, though, is that it's been around the longest, and it still holds up to all those other movies.
Holds up.
You know,
the
it's
acting is just.
it's
that's a number 1 ever movie going experience for me. Like, we stood in line for like a long freaking time to see it at midnight.
Yeah,
Heath Ledger had passed away. There was so much hype behind it, and then the movie like took it to the next level. So dude, there's no touching it. But at the same time, like, the movies you listed are almost not comic book movies. Like, Dark Knight's a different level. Logan's like a kind of a different different beast. Spider-Verse is its own thing, and then there's I don't know.
Honestly, I think that would be my top 4 as well. That's great. I don't know.
Rob tried to say Spider-Man 2, which I love Spider-Man 2, but it'd probably make the top 10. I don't know if it'd make the top 5. I like Spider-Man Homecoming better than Spider-Man 2. Fight me. I don't know.
Really?
I love that.
No.
I think that movie is so great. So many people focus way too hard on Tony Stark being in it for 5 minutes, saying he's in the whole movie when he's not at all. The whole point of the movie is that he stands up by himself at the end. That's the whole point. And it's the most Spider-Man thing ever.
Yeah.
I was like, everyone's like, Tony Stark was there to help him the whole time. I was like, did you miss the whole ending of the movie where he does everything by himself? And then he offers him to be an Avenger and he turns it down? Like, did you miss that part? I was like, come on. You can not like it. I don't care. But don't say it was just Iron Man and Spider-Man the whole time, because it's not. It's not even close.
No.
That's
like
everyone
a
says.
7 for me.
I don't know. I love it. It's in my top 10 MCU. For
Michael
sure.
Keaton was amazing in that.
Yeah.
Rob says the train sequence in Spider-Man 2 and Doc Ock. I mean, yes, Rob. That is one of the best sequences ever. It's so great. They even reference it in Into the Spider-Verse. Obviously, it's great.
Yeah.
That is a great. I mean,
Into the Spider-Verse might be my. Yeah, Into the Spider-Verse might be my favorite comic book movie of all time. I adore that movie so much. It's just.
I remember not caring about it coming out, going to see it in theaters, and being like, "What the fuck is this?"
Yeah.
I think that's what happened to everyone. Honestly, everyone was like, "Oh, cool, Spider-Man animated movie. This should be fun." And then we watched it, and we're all like, "What? Did we just watch that? Like what?"
Oh, it's so dope. Yeah, and all the different. Yeah, I could go on and on about that. Black Widow, guys. Focus.
I know.
It's podcasts. We get sidetracked. It's happening.
That's the takeaway from Black Widow is we want to talk about the movies, the other movies in the Loki show and other stuff. Like it was good, but at the same time, there's other stuff that's so much better.
Yeah.
It definitely got overshadowed by Loki.
Yeah,
for sure. Which
he was so good.
It's understandable. All right, well let's talk about some of the new characters that we got in this movie. I want to talk about Red Guardian a little bit because David Harbour, what a treat, man.
Hilarious.
Which is funny because he is like the worst person besides maybe Dreykov in this whole movie. He is such a terrible person.
Right.
He's an awful dad. All he cares about is himself, and we just love him the whole time.
So likable though, yeah.
Yeah, it just speaks to his performance that was so great. I just want to hear. Let's you go ahead, Austin. What did you think about David Harbour as Red Guardian?
I just want to put it out there that David Harbour is having a moment. He was just in the Steven Soderbergh movie. He was obviously in Stranger Things, in Hellboy. Now he's in the MCU. The dude is like 50 years old and has been doing movies forever and is just living his best life at the moment. So all of us can just hold on to what David Harbour is doing in life, and we can do it. We could achieve our goals.
Our greatness.
Be like David.
Yeah, that's
it.
What a great point. And that Hellboy movie got trashed on way too hard because it has the most.
Like that movie,
it has the most metal scene. I know we're talking about something completely different than Black Widow again, but it has the most metal scene in a movie I've ever seen in my life. When he has the vision, he has the full devil horns, and he has a flaming sword that he's riding in a dragon in hell. Name anything that's more metal than that, and I will say that you are wrong. But
Tenacious D. No.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a close second. Having Dave Grohl voice the devil is pretty metal.
Yeah.
But
I agree.
I digress. Meredith, what was your thoughts on David Harbour as Red Guardian? And I like Austin's take on that. We are all young enough to do whatever we want in life.
Yes.
Because David Harbour is out here doing his fucking thing at 50 years old.
I thought it was just perfect casting. It's like you want to hate him because obviously he was a horrible father, and like, when you find out that he was pretending the whole time and this and that, and you're like, oh well, that sucks. But then he's just like in the jail and like arm wrestling everybody and just beating everyone and just like laughing. I just thought that was so funny. Like, and then when they like break him out and he's just beating everybody up, slowly getting up there. I don't know. I just thought that was awesome. Then when he puts on the suit, it's like, God. Oh, it still fits.
Him squeezing into the suit, that scene was.
And then he obviously has that like soft moment, and he tries to tell Natasha like 5 times how he feels, and it just like never works. But I think you finally just see that he has a heart, and
Yeah.
it was kind of like a 180 moment. I thought that was really cool, and I thought he played the part excellent. So,
Yeah, I definitely am curious to see what Captain America he fought with, or if it was a lie, because he
yeah,
definitely could
I
have
don't think it
fought
was
with
live.
a Captain America, but it wouldn't be Steve
I think
Rogers.
it was.
'Cause Steve
Yeah,
Rogers
I
was
don't
on
think it.
ice. Isaiah Bradley, I think, wasn't around yet, or was around beforehand. So, but it could have been a different Captain America. It could have been Bucky pretending to be Captain America at some point, possibly. I hope we get that eventually. I would very much like to see that scene, because him asking Natasha, and I was like, there's no way he would have met that Captain America.
Mhm.
I was like, it's
Yeah.
impossible. But it is funny that he did ask that, after all this time. He's like, does he ever talk about me? And I was like, that's like one of the funniest lines in the whole movie, and I feel like it's almost like an underrated line. Just because, like, what? Why would you ask that now? It's the worst time to ask about this. What is wrong with you, man? But it was great. It was great. Mike, Red Guardian.
Well, Red Guardian. I thought he was great. I thought kind of the same thing. It's like shitty dad. He just lets his girls get taken away.
Yeah,
it
didn't
was
even give a
sweet.
fuck.
He didn't give a fuck. And then he had that cool moment with Ilana where he like sings. They sing American
Yeah.
Pie to kind of get
That
it
was
back.
nice. Yeah, that was nice.
I thought he was. I mean, every time he was on, he was hilarious. And I kind of don't know where he's gonna fit going forward. So I thought they were gonna kill him for sure. I thought they were gonna kill him, probably
Yeah.
kill him and Rachel. Like, I thought they were gonna like die together or something.
That would have been a nice sacrifice.
Yeah, I mean, I'll see him in anything he does.
Yeah.
I just don't. I just don't know. Like, where is he gonna? Are we gonna have that moment where he's gonna fight like back to back with like one of the Captain Americas that we're gonna,
Like a flash or something, maybe.
Yeah.
I just had a dream scene where it's like him and Rocket Raccoon just like trading barbs, like showing off like prison tattoos. Like that's what we want. We like
Yes.
like they're showing all their scars and stuff from being in jail, and Rocket like takes off his shirt and they're just like making fun of each other. And then then Hemsworth is next to him too, and David Harbour is like out of shape and fat, and like let's go. That's what we want.
That would be.
I guess
that'd be amazing. That would be.
Have him fight next to Sam. I think that'd be kind of cool. The new Captain America.
Would be cool.
Dude. So okay, I take back what I said. I kind of want to see him now. I kind of want to see who they pair him up with. But
like
I thought he was great.
Imagine him and Deadpool interacting.
Oh, a dream.
Because I don't know if you guys saw the Free Guy marketing where it had Deadpool and Korg doing a trailer reaction to Free Guy.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious because Ryan Reynolds and Taika Waititi are both in the movie. And that's technically the first time Deadpool is in the MCU, technically. And I can't wait to see that dude interact with everyone. But someone, especially like David Harbour, like those two interacting would be unbelievable. Because I never thought I would see Korg and Deadpool on a couch doing a trailer reaction in my life. I would have never guessed that in a million years. But when I saw it, I was like, this is everything I need. Do more of these, please.
I just had a line pop in. So one of my favorite lines in the movie is when Yelena calls him Crimson Dynamo.
Oh, Crimson Dynamo,
like, you're touching into the identity piece and like having like searching for who you are and your family and stuff. And that's like such a good little moment for his character because he's like trying to find like who cares about him as a person.
Yeah.
And then even his own daughter is like purposefully mixing up like what hero he was. And I think that they just did a really good job of like layering in those themes to be like, no, like nobody cared about who I was,
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, Crimson Dynamo is actually part of the Winter Guard, which is kind of like the Russian Avengers in the comics, and he was like the Iron Man, kind of, I think.
Is that not Mickey Rourke's character from Iron Man 2? What is
his dad, his dad's name was the Crimson Dynamo's name, and I think he takes like a fake name that ends up being, it was like the second person that was Crimson Dynamo or something like that. But yes, it is pretty much like that. Yeah, like a very big Easter egg kind of back to that in a way.
Love it.
There was one thing that I want to say about the trailers in that they did a very good job of not giving a lot away in a movie that a lot of people kind of knew how ended in a way. Because I thought they were like a literal family, like actually related.
Yeah.
So when it was revealed that they were like a spy plant family, I was like, oh, that's a cool twist.
Mm-hmm.
Wild. And the whole kind of like the scene where they're breaking out of the prison, they kind of made it look like that was the final scene in some way too. So it was fun to see that like right in the middle of the movie and be like, oh, okay, this is not how you watch the trailer and you thought how it was going to go in the movie. But I mean, Marvel's the best at that. They put fake scenes in their trailers, so no surprise there that they did a good job of not giving too much away and kind of tricking us on us thinking where things are going to go. So big props to them to that. I think everyone loved Red Guardian. He was great. He was funny. David Harbour. I mean, he was a terrible dad, obviously, or fake dad. Because that opening scene, which I have to say, that was such a cool opening scene for a Marvel movie, because it didn't feel like a Marvel movie, just like what Meredith said. I was like, wow, this is whoa, like I did not expect this, but I loved it. And even like the title credits, super super cool with the cover of Smells Like Teen Spirit, which there's like a lot of like very subtle nods and choices that the director and like team made that I think a lot of people have looked over, like the kind of the callbacks from the opening scene to the end scene between Yelena and Natasha and stuff like that. I think a lot of people looked over. Like they do the like, oh, you're upside down again, when she's like, oh, you'll fall down first. The whistle, which they started and ended with, it was like a nice way to bookend them both together. Even like the American Pie thing that Mike brought up that came back later in the movie, which is funny because what that song actually means, there's like nothing really good and warm about it. She just liked it because it was like an American song she liked. But yeah, like I like kind of we've all kind of agreed on it. Like wasn't like the best movie, but it was still a good addition to the MCU.
Yeah,
it was fun.
Yeah, it was a very fun movie, and like we've kind of
fun and fine.
touched on that. It was a very good to see an MCU movie in theaters too. We've been watching it on TV for the past, a little over half a year, and that's been awesome. It's been awesome to get more MCU, but seeing on the screen it's different. It's a different feeling for sure. Another standout, which probably could be the standout of the movie that I wanted to talk about, Yelena Belova, Florence Pugh, which I'm not sure if you guys have watched other stuff Florence Pugh's been in. I've watched a few things. I haven't seen Little Women, but I've seen Midsommar. I've seen Fighting with My Family.
I've seen Little Woman.
She was great in Fighting with My Family, which is a movie based on Paige the wrestler, which funny enough, Sam loved that movie and she hates wrestling. So it's really funny that it's a movie about fucking wrestling and she loved it.
I think that movie's on Netflix, or it's on one of the streaming sites. I definitely recommend it.
Yes.
I kind of want to see it.
It's good.
The cast is great. Yeah.
The Rock was like produced it and everything. He's produced a lot of movies that a lot of people don't know about. He runs a production company, but he's in the movie too. So of course.
I remember Paige. It's the wrestler from like back in the day, right? Paige.
Kind of like 5-10 years ago. She was forced to retire because of a neck injury.
Yeah.
But she's like insanely. She's like not even 30, because she won the title at like 21 or something. She's super young.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think she's like almost 30 or not even close to 30. She retired a few years ago.
Cersei Lannister, I'm blanking on her name right now. It's like her mom, and Nick Frost from like the Shaun of the Dead movies is her dad.
Oh, nice.
It's got a great cast up and down. So yeah, watch Florence Pugh movies. That's the takeaway.
True. Midsommar is one of the most unsettling movies I probably ever saw in a theater in my life, but I think that's what it was trying to do. So she was great in that movie. I always try to be like, did you like that movie? And I'm like, I don't know, but it makes me think a lot.
I hated it, dude.
It's so weird and
it
like
was so
unsettling. But I think that's the point. So
it is, but it's like, damn it.
Yeah, because I left the theater and I was like, yeah. I went with a friend in LA and he was like, what'd you think? And I'm like, I don't know.
No.
I
think if you liked that movie, if you like loved and liked that movie, I think there's something maybe like a little bit off in terms of what you enjoy, because that movie's intense, but she's awesome, man. I think
Very intense. Yes. Austin, add on, what was your love for Yelena Belova? Because I don't know about you, but I am so excited to see her in more MCU things in the future. I can't wait. The way she makes fun of Natasha, just
Yes.
just her like witty sarcasm, which is amazing that she has that kind of attitude and view with how she was raised. You know, she was raised as like a trained assassin, but she still has this kind of like light and levity. Obviously, it's kind of a defense mechanism, but it's still very impressive to even have that kind of defense mechanism being a mindless trained assassin, you know?
Are we like in full spoiler territory?
Oh
Like,
yeah,
end
yeah.
credits
I mean, it says
stuff,
spoiler
like,
discussion. I'm sorry I didn't say spoiler review, but it's in the title. I don't know, read, I guess.
so one of my gripes with a character like her is you can see the seams that they're putting Yelena in there to kind of take over the mantle of like the Black Widow character. And so sometimes when you're watching, like kind of knowing that she's going to be in more movies, you start to kind of pull apart like, oh, I see what they're doing. And it kind of, for me, it like removes the illusion a little bit.
Gotcha.
My biggest takeaway on a Florence Pugh character, like for Florence Pugh showing up into the MCU, my wife is a huge Little Women fan and like loves her as an actress. So she's like, I'm like, oh, Florence Pugh is the next Black Widow, and my wife was like, oh, what? Like, I'm super in now, and I'm interested in watching it. And like, I think that that's cool that they do such a good job of bringing actors and actresses into
Right.
the fold that will attract like new people to it. Because my wife doesn't care at all about Black Widow, but she's gonna be like, oh, I'll watch Florence Pugh act in this movie. So I think that's just a smart move by Marvel.
That's true.
Yeah.
Very, very fair. I mean, Scarlett Johansson herself, I mean, she was nominated for 2 Academy Awards last year. You can't. She's no slouch.
Yeah.
Marriage Story. Oh, what a great! That was a fantastic movie.
That was another movie too.
Sorry,
where
I love that
I
movie.
liked it, but at the same time, it was so real that it was like
The end scene just made me cry. Like, that was so bad.
it's one of those movies that make you feel too much almost, not in a
Yeah.
bad way, but you're like, this is too real for me to handle. Like, Meredith, what were your thoughts on Yelena Belova?
I loved her character, and actually Florence like Pugh. I don't even know that's how you pronounce her last name till right now. So
There you go.
But I first saw Midsummer, it was like last year, whenever it came out, and I was like, who are all these no-name like actors and actresses? I didn't know. Like, I'm just being fair. And then she was up for Academy Award, I think, for Little Women. I was like, oh shit, like she's not no name at all. And then
Right.
I read a list, like 10 movies you should watch that she's in, and I didn't really have like this idea she's gonna be like the next like younger actor or actress, and that she's gonna win a lot more awards, I think. And
Oh,
the
yeah.
fact that they introduced her in this movie, and she did a way different role than like almost anything she's done, I think. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. What I've seen so far between Midsummer and Little Women, this is like a third. She's just a versatile actress.
Oh,
So I think just having her on, and just Yelena, I can't talk today. I'm stuttering.
You're fine.
But I think her character was almost more badass than Natasha. Like, it's like that's almost hard to say, but I was like, she's the younger one, but she's the more kind of like feisty, and you could tell she's like she's ready to go. I think she's gonna take up the mantle well. So I don't know. I was pretty stoked on the character, and the actress choice.
Awesome. Mike, your thoughts?
So I think I'm kind of a sucker for like sibling things because I'm a younger sibling, so I liked.
There you go.
I kind of felt like they did a pretty good job of making her be like the sibling that like wants to take shots at her older sister, but at the same time you can tell just respects her like crazy.
Yeah.
One of my favorite moments was in the beginning when they're running away. I think they're both running from Taskmaster, and she goes to get her keys for her motorcycle, and she realizes that Natasha took it.
Yeah.
And it's really subtle, but she calls her bitch. She's like, bitch. Like, but she says it in Russian, And it felt like little things like that. I'm just like, that's something a younger sibling would be like, dude, fuck you. Like,
I want to
like,
add, I love the jacket scene when she
yeah,
The vest?
and she gets the
Yeah.
vest. Like, this is the first thing I've ever bought. Like, don't you like it with all the pockets? It's like, oh my god,
It has so
I
many
don't know.
pockets.
and then when Natasha gives her the like, it's a cool jacket, she's like, I knew you'd like it. I knew you'd like it.
She was like waiting for
So-
the approval.
Yeah. So I
I
thought,
didn't put that together. I didn't put that. I'm a little sibling too, so that's
Damn,
like
what
a
the hell?
point
That's
they've
crazy.
written into
I'm
the
older
movie. Yeah.
sibling.
Boo.
I
But
guess I'll
I
go
don't
jump
know.
off the Vormir cliff like Natasha. Fuck.
But no, I thought she was a great character. I'm stoked to see her show up in more stuff. You know, if she's taking over the Black Widow mantle, I'm definitely okay with that. Or if they make her own thing, I'm more okay with that. But I thought she did a good job of delivering like good emotion, because I kind of felt that that the family thing was real for her, and
Yeah.
I felt her broken, but the fact that no one else cared but her, you know. And so I don't know, I thought I didn't know anything about her. This is my first time seeing her, so I thought she was amazing, and I'm gonna probably end up watching Little Women or whatever else
Yeah.
whatever else she was in.
Yes.
So
I want to add something real quick since we're kind of at the
course.
spoiler part anyway. I was just thinking they could also, so Natasha like sacrifices herself because she kind of like says, "Oh, I don't really have a family or whatever." So I kind of wonder what happened to everyone in that time, you know, uh, with the Red Guardian, like her fake family and stuff. Like, what happened to all the people that she cared for, and she just like sacrificed herself because she, Clinton had his family. I mean, I was just curious,
it was-
like I guess if
it was
anybody
more-
even knew that was going to be the choice and
It
all
was.
of that.
I think it was
like,
more
her family.
because maybe it's because he had like more of a direct family, like a wife and kids that they were trying to get back. Because the big theme of Endgame is saying that like, and even they tie it in at the end when she's like, "Oh, I have another family. I gotta patch up," because she has that one scene. But I mean, it does kind of add to the Red Guardian kind of thing. I'm guessing they probably just don't ever talk again after this, besides maybe Elena.
Yeah, maybe.
Because she's like, I had nothing until I got this job, and now we're family. It's like her and Steve are talking at Avengers headquarters, just those two, after she has that like video conference call with like Rocket and Okoye and all those people. But it does kind of add to the Russian family side.
On that scene, that's a whole nother movie too, where Scarlett Johansson, I'm blanking on her name, Black Widow is overseeing like all the global events. Like maybe she's in cahoots with her family at that point too. Like there's a lot of different places that the story could kind of jump into, and like we don't know who got snapped away.
There is one.
Oh, it's true.
There is one big. Yeah, she could have lost them all in the snap, because a lot of people were asking. Kevin Feige did like a Black Widow watch party, and he was tweeting along the whole time. And someone asked about Yelena being dusted or blipped or whatever you want to call it, and he basically said, we're going to find out. So she could have been like, how heartbreaking that she got taken away from Natasha after reconnecting, and when Yelena comes back, she learns that she's gone. You know, like that's devastating, heartbreaking.
Damn.
Now I'm depressed.
Yeah.
Great.
I was thinking about that though. I was like,
but
damn.
Likely, it looks like we're gonna find out this year in the Hawkeye series, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't wait to see more of her in the MCU. Like I've said before, I think she's an amazing addition. We're going to get to more of the Hawkeye talk. I want to end in the post-credit scene because it's very important. But a dynamic in that show is going to be very, very, if it's like the comics, it's going to be an insane dynamic between the two characters. So I'll talk more about that once we get to that. I did want to talk about, and this has been probably the hottest debate of this movie, has been the Taskmaster twist. So Taskmaster in the comics was this guy, Tony Masters, who had basically a photographic memory and could copy anyone's moves. Similar to what they did here, but they kind of made her a weird Terminator kind of combination and had some tech, kind of like Iron Man's tech that he used in Civil War to help her fight and mimic people's moves. And it was a girl, that which apparently a lot of people are mad about. I don't know if it was a girl because it was a girl or because it wasn't Tony Masters, which, if I'm going to be honest, if it was Tony Masters, there's no connection to anything with Tony Masters in the MCU. So it would have just been like, oh, it's this random fucking guy. Cool. With it being Dreykov's daughter, who Natasha thought she blew up, I thought it was a very cool way to make it personal to her and left it wide open for her to return to the MCU, which I think will probably happen. And I have to say, especially the first scene where Taskmaster shows up on that bridge, so intimidating and an insane force every time Taskmaster showed up. Like, every time Taskmaster showed up, they're pretty much like, well, we can't fight Taskmaster, because the only way that Natasha even beat her in the end was kind of outsmarting her and knocking her, she got the helmet off so she couldn't copy the moves, and then use the antidote to kind of, take her out of the mind control. But still, like, she still has the programming. She still has, the suit and everything. So very much could return. But I am curious to hear your guys' thoughts. I know a lot of people probably weren't familiar with Taskmaster anyway before this. Maybe not. I could be wrong. But he's kind of underutilized most ways anyway. Like, Taskmaster as a character. He was also in the Marvel Avengers game, but barely in it. Was kind of just like a sidestep villain for the whole story of the video game there as well. So I feel like this character is vastly underutilized anyway, but it is a very ground level type villain. So if you're comparing it to like a Kang or a Thanos or a Loki, it's kind of hard to compare it anyway. But I want to hear what you guys think. So let's start with Mike on this one. Taskmaster Twist, your thoughts.
So I thought the twist was okay. Like, I wasn't that bummed out about it being Dreykov's daughter. I think I know they kind of explained it like quickly, like, oh, she can or mimic anyone's movements and stuff. I wish they would have done more. I wish they would have, like, showed us more, like, how she does it, other examples of when she was able to use it, or like, I don't know. I just felt like it was very like you said, when she would show up, her presence was like, it was cool. Like, she looks cool. She wreck shit, and so, like, that was cool. But I just, after a while, like, I wasn't that, like, I don't know. I wanted more. I wanted to understand a little bit more, like, why is she so obedient? How did Dreykov not die in that explosion? Like,
how did either of them not die? I don't know. Terrible bombs, I guess.
Yeah, and so, and, like, is she thinking on her own? Is she under that control? Does she have a personal hatred for Natasha? Does she even know it was Natasha? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I just felt like,
yeah. I don't think she did, because they kind of, when the antidote is, like, obviously she was still mind controlled, and she even asked about her dad, like, is he still around? And they're like, no, he's gone. Like, her being relieved that she was gone. So I think she was mind controlled just like the rest of them. She just had that technology to help her mimic everyone's moves. I see what you mean about the seeing more. I hope we see more of her in the future. It was kind of like what I was saying before. It's like, it's hard to say, like, oh, I mean, I guess you could still want to see her more in the movie, but we might get way more of her in the future. And
yeah, true.
That was, like, the one thing I liked. It was like, instead of, there was the whole scene where she mimics Natasha's moves in that bridge scene, which was very cool. And they kind of do the same thing with Yelena to kind of set it up, like, oh, Yelena could be Taskmaster, but then they show them in the same scene, so it kind of rules out that, unless they did a Scream where there was multiple Taskmasters, which could have been pretty cool if they did that. But but they did the whole thing with pretty much the whole movie. Taskmaster is using some sort of Avengers type move. The arrows with Hawkeye, the shield with Captain America, the claws with Black Panther. There's even the swing that she does on the bridge that could have been a Spider-Man type move in a way. But yeah, I can see that for sure, of like I said, I want to see more of Taskmaster in the MCU, but I guess we'll see. Meredith, what did you think? Did I already ask? Didn't ask you.
No, you're good. I think they will touch more on Taskmaster, but I'm kind of glad they didn't do too much, because then it's gonna feel like overwhelming with how much was already going on. So it's like,
Yeah.
how much more can you add in one like go? It would almost feel like what Spider-Man 3, when they try to like tie in too many things all at once and it just crumbled.
Yeah.
So I kind of like that they left it more open, and they left it like wanting you want to have a lot of questions, because I feel like it's going to be able to, more things will be answered in like another like series or movie or something. And it just, or maybe it's just not a prominent character and won't ever come back. And
True.
it's either way, it would be okay. I think the next movie they do that comes out will probably be more of like less in the middleman, but people are going to be more excited about. So I think, I don't know, I like Taskmaster. I thought it was kind of cool they made it like, Natasha doesn't have to feel that like guilt anymore because she didn't kill anyone like she thought she did. So it's kind of like cool that they left that open, and you never know where the direction's going to be. So that's just my opinion.
Very fair. There was one thing I did want to bring up before Austin talks about Taskmaster. I will say that Dreykov, Mike, you can go after my thought here. Dreykov's daughter is a callback to Avengers 1. When she's talking with Loki in that interrogation scene, and they're talking about the red in her ledger, and he's like, "Can you really wipe out all that red?" And she goes, "Dreykov's daughter," which is one of the most. I didn't notice that, because later in the movie, Natasha goes, "Thank you for cooperation," which was a callback to that same scene, because she tricks Loki the same way in a similar way that she tricks Dreykov. I caught that one, but when I was watching like a breakdown Easter egg video and they brought that up, I was like, wow, that is an unreal callback to Avengers 1. I was like, holy shit.
I didn't know that. Yeah.
I didn't know that either.
Crazy. Mike, what were you looking to say?
I was just saying, the reveal, it kind of reminded me of Stryker and Jason from X-Men.
Oh. Wow.
I don't know. That's like, as soon as I saw it, I was like, why does this feel so familiar? I was like, oh, X-Men.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Stryker and Jason.
That's cool. That's a nice callback. Austin, what did you think about Taskmaster?
You never know.
While you guys were talking about it, it reminds me of the Winter Soldier, when he would show up in the Winter Soldier and like the music changed and the vibe, and you're like, oh no, like you guys can't get away from this guy. And so I thought like that was similar to when Taskmaster would show up. And honestly, about the twist, like I don't care. Like if you want to get passionate about Crossbones, Taskmaster, Baltrock the Leaper, like those are like inconsequential villains in the MCU. Like who cares? Kinda. Like I get that people get passionate about it, but like I don't think, Meredith, you were saying like that's not the point of the movie. Like the point of the movie was the family aspect and kind of just diving into like, okay, some like really bad stuff has happened to Natasha and Yelena, and them kind of working through that. And then unfortunately in this one, Taskmaster kind of just ends up being a peripheral, I guess, motivator for them to like keep going towards the Red Room. But yeah, I thought she was cool as a character. I thought the way that they like handled like her moves and stuff was pretty dope. But yeah, at the same time, I'm like, I'm not there for Taskmaster. So if somebody cares, like they have like Taskmaster tattoos, like good on you.
Good on you. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
I have a Taskmaster pop, but that's about it.
It's a cool character design. Like,
yeah.
I just like seeing that in the movie.
Definitely looked like a Power Ranger, but that's all right.
Reminded me of Ghost from Call of Duty. Ghost.
Oh, all right.
A little bit for me.
That's fair.
Futuristic Ghost.
Yeah. I mean, the suit was pretty cool. I know a lot of people complained about it because it's like, in some iterations, it's actually a skull head. In other times, it's like a mask that looks more like a skull, but whatever. I don't know. comic fans get really upset about a lot of things. So it's not
Yes, they
shocking.
do.
Oh, just chill, everybody.
It's not.
Let them change some stuff.
It's not shocking. I mean, they changed a lot of stuff, and that's what I like about it. It's
Yeah.
someone was
Not predictable.
comparing this to, well, I've always heard the comparison. I've kind of made the comparison because a lot of people like video games or stuff like that. It's hard for them to get into because they're so used to the MCU. So when it's something different, it's hard for them because they want to see the MCU people in it. Like a lot of people had a problem with the Avengers, like the way they looked, the way they sounded, because it's not the MCU. And I was like, yeah, I get it. And I was like, I look at it.
That's coming out.
Yeah, I was like, I look at it as like a different comic run. You know, it's like a separate run, different story, not connected. And then I heard someone the other day compare the whole MCU as like a comic universe where some series or movies, they're still good, but they're not all of them are great, which is kind of par for the course. Not everything is going to be a knockout run, and not everything is going to be a crazy Avengers level movie, because then you'll never have an Avengers level movie, because you need that build up and you need these grounded building blocks stories to get to there. Then we'll never have those payoff moments if everything is just balls to the wall, time travel, heist, fighting Thanos every time. You know, it's like we'll never get those nice moments. And that's why I've loved like a lot of the series, and even a lot of this movie, is there's been so much just like sitting down and talking in a room. And it's funny because I watch or listen to the Kevin Smith podcast every episode. It's usually weekly, but sometimes, you know, he's a busy guy, so he doesn't have it every week. But he's like, some of these new Marvel things, it makes me feel like I can direct a Marvel movie for once, because it's just them sitting in a room talking. He's like, that's what I do. And I love that kind of stuff. I love dialogue and character development because it adds more to the story. And I love storytelling. Like I wanted to move on to favorite moments, and one of my favorite moments was the dinner scene with them just talking. And it back to Mike's point about Yelena talking about her thinking the movie was real, and that was like one of the most impactful emotional moments. And she's like, it was real. Don't say that. It was real to me, you know? And it's like, I love that they were just sitting in a room talking, you know? So let's go around the table and like talk about favorite moments of the movie, which we might have talked or brushed upon throughout this whole conversation. But Meredith's favorite moments of Black Widow.
I like the whistle, like at the end, like
it was great.
That got me. That was a great like scene. And then I liked the dinner. Every time they were kind of like together, I thought was really cool. And then even when Yelena had to, you know, found out that she was under this mind control, and then, you know, she snaps out and she ends up killing like I forgot her name, but kills her. She just feels this like immense grief right away, and she just feels like, wow, for the past 20 years or whatever, I was just not even myself. And I don't know, that moment got me. I thought that was like a great moment. It wasn't like that huge, I guess, in retrospect, but I thought it was like a great moment. And then I thought the sister scene too, when they kind of got like broke apart, the family in the beginning, I thought that was a really good scene. I was just like, wow. And then that's when the Smells Like Teen Spirit song came on, and then they went kind of through like the mind control and like what they were going to do. I thought that was cool. It wasn't even like a scene, but just the opening credits I thought was really cool. So
I agree. Go to Austin next. Favorite moments.
Yeah, I think in general, just like the barbs that they were trading and stuff, like I thought the chemistry between the characters was really good, where they were just like real quick barbs, and even stuff where you're like, oh, I might not even have caught that on the first time. I thought that they did that really well. And then the action, I think in general, like the chase scene when they're on the bike and the Taskmaster dudes or girls in the tank, like just doing the golden eye thing where he's just like demolishing everything in his path. Like that was fun.
Yeah, that was a insanely fun, wild scene, just demolishing everything in a tank. And then I do love that my favorite like Yelena jab had to have been the poser line of her making fun of her pose, and then she accidentally does it later, and she's like,
does it?
That was the best. Mike, what were your favorite moments of the movie?
It's a lot of, like I said, a lot of sibling stuff, some of the family stuff. Like there's like little things that kind of hit me when Red Guardian talks about the mom when she's like getting carried away. Like, she's all right. He's like, she's strong. She'll make this. And then when he puts on the suit, and like you can kind of tell, like even though it was like all fake and planned, you can kind of tell that they kind of liked each other, the parents. And like she kind of like almost like was kind of like into it that he could put that he had the suit on. Like little things like that I thought were kind of funny, like, or just cool little moments, yeah. So I liked a lot of the sibling stuff with the parents. The chase was really cool. The whole the whole like switch at the end where you realize that it was Natasha wearing the Mission Impossible mask.
I called that one.
Yeah.
I was like, I knew it. Like that's Natasha.
You've seen that same mask in Winter Soldier. She used the same mask at the end of Winter Soldier, and Sharon Carter used it in Falcon the Winter Soldier as well. Spy shit,
man.
Love it. I love it.
There's a weird detail too, where when Dreykov is like right in her face, it seems like he almost like takes a whiff of her and pulls her hair too. And probably realizes like, oh, this isn't Rachel Weisz's character, which is like crazy that like he is that much of a psycho.
When she breaks her nose too, that
was wild. That was badass.
I knew it was coming. I was like, she's gonna break because like, oh, do you smell the pheromones and stuff like that? I was like, I knew it was coming. Like, she's gonna break her fucking nose. Bam.
Which it's another William Stryker thing. Because when Wolverine's walking up, he's like, "Lock it up! I know my creation," and it's Mystique.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This guy is William Stryker.
I think there was a Stryker in the MCU, in maybe Captain America or something. It's gonna be weird how they kind of work that kind of stuff in, because it might be a multiverse thing, maybe not. I don't really know how they're gonna do it. I just trust them to introduce the mutants in a good way, and I don't even try to rack my brain about it, because I know whatever I would guess is not gonna be it anyway. So it's just like whenever it happens, cool, and I'm sure they'll do it in a cool way. But like a lot of the stuff in the past is like I'm wondering, because like Magneto was around in World War II and stuff like that. It's like, are they going to take that away and do a new version or what? And it's kind of an important part of the character. So I'm interested to see how they'll play with the different period piece people kind of thing. But I'll let them show me what they're going to do.
Austin was going to say something.
Oh, I was just going to say that Wolverine is a Canadian super soldier. Like, he's part of the Canadian super soldier thing, just like Red Guardian and Cap and stuff. Like they were doing their own stuff, but they were like, well, frick, we got to put like adamantium in his bones too to help.
I was gonna say, who's gonna even play Wolverine? I feel like that's probably gonna be a trouble in its own.
Likely it will be. I really hope they bring back Daphne Keane from Logan and make X-23 Wolverine.
That'd be dope.
That's what I want. I just want it because she is Wolverine in the comics. It's like it's a mantle, just like Captain America, just like whatever. I mean, X-23 is like the project number they gave to her for creating her. So it's not even her name, So it's I would be more than fine seeing her come in as Wolverine, and by the time they would do it, she would be like a young adult. So it'd kind of be perfect timing. We'll see if they do it. Who knows? It's just like that would be the easiest way to be like, hey, it's not a Logan, and they can bring in a different Logan later, even if they wanted to. Because a lot of the fan cast for it have been like Tom Hardy, which with Venom, it's not gonna be Tom Hardy. Taron Egerton, which he could probably do it. It'd be kind of weird, but he could probably pull it off. It's tough. It's gonna be very tough for someone to pull it off after what Hugh Jackman did.
Role,
I trust Marvel.
Oh, I do too, 100%. Whoever they do, I'll be like, okay, cool.
They made me cry for a tree, so
A tree.
They fucking did.
Like,
you're damn right. They did make us cry for a tree. That's a very,
true.
very valid point. That's what's like. A lot of people are like, obviously they're delving into a lot of deep cut stuff now with like Eternals and Shang-Chi and stuff like that. And they're like, I don't really know anything about them. And I'm like, okay, you're telling me you knew a lot about Guardians of the Galaxy, which is now like everyone's favorite thing. And I was like, oh yeah, you're right.
Or even the Avengers. Yeah, even
Yeah.
no one gave a fuck about
About
Iron Man or Thor.
Yeah.
or Thor,
No
yeah.
one, no one cared.
Yeah, it was all
No
like
one
I
cared.
love
Hulk, kind of Captain America, Spider-Man, and most of the mutants. Like those are the big ones, you know.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
that's what it's like. Yeah, I was like, no one knew who the fuck the Avengers were besides real
Yeah,
comic
no
nerds
one cared.
20 years
Right,
ago.
no one
You
cared.
know, like no one. I didn't know who fuck Iron Man was until I saw the movie, and I was like, this is fucking cool. Like I knew Batman, Spider-Man, X-Men, and a couple of the other random ones.
Superman.
You know, it's
I
like,
only like Captain America because he had that awful movie from like the 80s.
oh
Have you guys seen
my
that?
god, I haven't
With
seen it,
Red
but I've heard
Skull.
it's terrible.
Red Skull's in it. There's like a quick like Wolverine cameo. I mean, it's awful, but that's like that's only
I think
reason
there's
why
an
I really
old-
cared about Captain America.
There's a couple of those old like Marvel movie, like old Marvel movies that are very, very bad, like
Yeah.
ungodly.
Yeah.
All right, I want to wrap this up with talking about that fucking post credit scene because this was pretty much. I didn't know it was going to be at all, to be honest. I figured it would kind of set up something with Yelena, possibly, or Taskmaster, especially with Ross coming at the end. I kind of thought he was going to take Taskmaster, and it was going to turn because the big thing I've been talking about, and especially after Falcon Winter Soldier, with Val showing up and recruiting John Walker and making him U.S. agent, is that a looming Thunderbolts team is likely coming. It's going to since in its perfect timing with there is no Avengers right now at all. There's like Cap and Bucky, but like Thor's in space, Captain Marvel's in space, Iron Man's gone, Cap's gone. Like there's no event like Hawkeye. I don't even know what the fuck Hawkeye's doing. So it's hard to say like when a new Avengers team is going to rise. So what perfect time for the government to come in, kind of what they tried to do with John Walker and be like, hey, this is our new Captain America, but with a whole new team. And it's people who aren't familiar with the Thunderbolts. It's kind of like the Suicide Squad in a way, but it's more like if they asked the Suicide Squad to be the Justice League. They're like, hey, you're all kind of people who have blurred lines of morality, and they're not as bad as the Suicide Squad in I guess more broader terms, but they're people who have done bad shit. But like, hey, you're going to be the good guys, but you have no rules. You work for the government.
Sean,
you do your
who's your guess for who the Thunderbolts team would be? Yelena, U.S. agent, and
Yelena, U.S. agent, Abomination, who is already going to show up in Shang-Chi and She-Hulk.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing they'll be a part of it. I do have a theory that Yelena might turn during the Hawkeye series, and Echo might replace her, maybe. We'll see about that, how that rolls out. Zemo, which they've kind of already teased through the Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Okay.
Who else? Maybe Ghost from Ant-Man and the Wasp, possibly. Because she kind of already...
What about Punisher or Moon Knight? Because they're like...
It's possible.
Okay.
It's possible.
Yeah.
I kind of hope they
You're
save them
looking
for
at people who
from
have already
Midnight
been in
Suns.
movies.
In a way, yeah. There's been like weird hopes and rumors that like Agatha could be a part of it, which would be wild if they had like a magician to be a part of the Thunderbolts. I do hope that Thunderbolt Ross eventually becomes Red Hulk and he joins, but with Abomination, they kind of don't really need him, maybe. But if they were gonna do Red Hulk, they kind of need to do it soon because that actor is old, so they kind of need to like make it happen.
in Black Widow, he's using a cane. And I was wondering if they're like gonna start implying that he's like not well, which would then lead him to take some serum of some sort and turn him into Red Hulk, or like maybe he has been experimenting with it to like stay healthy. I was wondering if that was intentional or if it's just literally like the actor is old.
Because in Incredible Hulk, he is dealing. That's how Abomination happens. It's him fucking with super soldier serum. And there was like documents in like the after credits, the end credits of Falcon and Winter Soldier with like Thaddeus Ross redacted stuff about super soldier serum and stuff. Even though he wasn't in the series, his name is very prominent in the end credit scene with something to do with the super soldier serum and things like that. Probably because of the Isaiah Bradley stuff and who the fuck else knows what else. And he does have that whole conversation in Civil War about how he's had 2 heart attacks, and they do reference it in this movie as well about his like bypass and stuff. So it definitely adds more to what you said about him experimenting this to make it better, and it does turn him into Red Hulk, which I think would probably happen in She-Hulk. I would imagine if it does happen, That would make sense
Yeah.
for that. But I kind of jumped from the force about the Thunderbolts thing, but this after credit scene, I will say this is the moment that made me the most teary eyed because it gave us the closure with Natasha's death and kind of the funeral we didn't get in a way in Endgame with Yelena, which funny her dog's name is Fanny because that's one of the fake passport names that Natasha was given by Mason in the movie. It's Fanny Longbottom, which I thought was a funny line too. She's visiting her grave, which was like a very heartfelt, nice closure scene. Especially for me, I was like, "Damn! Like this is what I wanted. Like I wanted something like this. It was beautiful, and it was a nice touch that she was buried in. I think they confirmed that she was buried in Ohio, which was where the family in the beginning was located. And then we hear someone blowing their nose, and it happened to be Val, played by Julia Louis-Dreyfus, who we saw first in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Funny enough, it seems like her and Yelena have already working together. It's hard for us to pinpoint when this exact moment took place, other than it's obviously after Endgame, because the whole spectrum of everything that's happened post Endgame, it's kind of hard because like WandaVision happened weeks after, Spider-Man happened months after, so did Falcon and Winter Soldier, but the Falcon and Winter Soldier is before Spider-Man, and Loki is kind of like, I don't know. They time didn't really matter then, but it's in chronological order on Disney Plus. It's listed before WandaVision, which a lot of people are theorizing that like the endings of WandaVision and Loki kind of line up in some way, which would make sense.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
So it's kind of hard to pinpoint when exactly this moment happened, other than post the events of Endgame, of course. But she's already working with Val. We know Val is building a team. Kevin Feige even hinted, because someone kind of asked him, like, hey, is Thunderbolts, or it could be Dark Avengers. I just don't think they'll say Dark Avengers because it's too close to the name Avengers, and DC is doing like Justice League Dark, and I think it'd just be kind of confusing. But we're also in a universe where there's a Captain Marvel, a Miss Marvel show coming out. That's the sequel to it is called The Marvels, which Blue Marvel might be introduced into, which they're in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So I mean, I guess they could call them the Dark Avengers. It's just, I think it'd be very weird for a government run program to be like, yeah, these are your new good guys, the Dark Avengers. Like, it's kind of weird, but I guess we'll see. It seems like they're building a team, like I said before, a government-led Avengers, like almost like the Seven from The Boys, a government-funded team where they seem like good guys and they have some good intentions, but they're not really the best people.
Yeah.
But I've been kind of hoping that the Thunderbolts were going to happen. I do think this next phase is going to be the phase of teams, whether we get like a Young Avengers, a West Coast Avengers, a New Avengers, Fantastic Four, X-Men, Illuminati, possibly. Like, who the fuck knows? The possibilities are endless. Midnight Suns, which is kind of why I took like Blade and Moon Knight and stuff out, because I kind of hope they do like a weird supernatural dark team with all of them. That'd be so sick. Because it seems like they're going real weird. Speaking about Mephisto, I think I'm gonna finally drop it next week. But people made the joke, have been making the joke in the Facebook group. If you're not a part of the Facebook group, join it. It's fun. We talk about all nerd things all the time. Lots of memes. It's great. And someone called me Metalcore Mephisto in the nerd group, saying I was Mephisto. So I had someone draw me as Mephisto. And I'm going to put it on t-shirts. I'm going to put them up for sale. If people buy them, cool. But it's a super sick design. Billy Barber did it. He's unbelievable artist, and he nailed it. Some people have already seen it, and they freaked out about it. I think I'm finally just going to put it up for sale and see if people buy it. We'll see.
Dope.
But yes, Metalcore Mephisto is coming. Mephisto confirmed. Mephisto confirmed. It was just funny because it was I was going to do a Kang shirt, like a Metalcore Kang shirt, if Kang didn't end up being in Loki, just to be like, hey, it's the one everyone guessed but never showed up. But now I can't really do it because he did show up. So they got us. But yes, let's hear everyone's thought on this post-credit scene, because I just ranted about the Thunderbolts for like 10 minutes. Mike, what did you think about this after-credit scene?
I thought it was cool. I mean, it sets up the Hawkeye show.
Yep.
I don't know. Did someone say earlier how like they think Yelena will kind of change and kind of team up with I think so too. So curious to see who the actual villain will be in the Hawkeye series, because I can't imagine they'll stay with that too long, because I feel like people like Elena too much for her to be like a villain in this
Yeah.
show. But yeah, I thought it was cool. Have they confirmed that that's Lady Hydra? Is that like a thing? Is that
I don't think so. I think she's just gonna end up being I can't remember her name. It was another name or someone who basically made who was the recruiter for the Thunderbolts in the comics. Is maybe Victoria or Veronica something or something like that. And I think she's taking that role, because even the Madam Hydra thing in the comics, it's a very short thing, and it's really just she's like a triple undercover spy. It's like she's pretending to work for Shield, pretending to work for Hydra when she's really working for this group called Leviathan. So even the Madam Hydra thing is a very brief thing that kind of got blown up on the internet, like the Reed Richards thing and stuff like that. So I don't think I just think she probably ultimately works for Ross, for some shadowy government organization, which I'm sure we'll get more answers to. Or maybe she doesn't work for Ross at all and she kind of just works for herself. I don't really know. But I really think she's just the recruiter for whatever this team is going to be. And she's kind of just, because even all the info she knows is crazy. Like the Shield being a gray area, and her even knowing that Hawkeye was with Natasha in Endgame.
Yeah,
Like, how the fuck does she know that? And also, I want to put to kibosh, there was like a big thing that only good guys or good people used Apple products. Well, Val had an iPad, so I can finally put that theory out of its misery. Someone told me that, and they're like, oh yeah, bad people can't use Apple products. It's like in some contract somewhere or something. I was like, well, Val used an iPad, so deal with it. Because that was the big thing. They're like, Sharon Carr is the power broker because she has a Android. And I was like, that is the craziest thing I've ever heard. And I've said some crazy shit on this podcast, but that is the craziest thing I've ever heard. I was like, Apple.
Yeah,
I was like, Nick Fury.
Comments are saying you work for Ross. You just got called out, man. You work
Maybe
for Thunderbolt. You're the recruiter.
Maybe I am. Maybe Mephisto is making his own team. You know.
The Mephistos.
Yeah. What do you know, Rob? What do you know? Shout out to Rob. He's been a guest on the podcast a few times, and he's a good guy. Big shredder. He shreds the guitar very well. Austin, your thoughts on the post-credit scene?
I am trying as hard as I can to not try to guess what Val is like up to or what her end game is, because I think that they want us to not know who she's aligned with, and I'm like, I can get so tied into knots on like, oh, this is who she's like doing, and then I just like I get mad when it doesn't happen. So I'm like trying to like take my hands off of that one. The most bonkers part is, so that movie's supposed to come out in like April 2020. Florence Pugh's career has just basically been on hold because she had to like wait for this movie to come out. And same with I'm blanking on, I can't remember the actress's name. Seinfeld, help me.
Oh, Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
Julia.
Yeah, like, can you imagine she's just sitting on that information forever, and then obviously she comes into Captain America, Winter Soldier, and stuff. But I thought it was dope. I think it sets it up, and I'm really excited for what the Hawkeye show can do, especially if they're pulling off of the comic run where him and Kate Bishop are like trying to like protect the apartment complex. I'm kind of confused on what that's going to be. So if that's the case and they're just like fighting a bunch of mobsters and stuff, that's going to be super dope.
I will say there is a rumor, that Vincent D'Onofrio, whatever the guy who played Fisk in the Daredevil show, might be reprising his role. Because it is taking place in New York City, which is the same place that run is from. It's in New York City, but it's also I've read the first 2 volumes of it. They actually took the logo from that series, and that's the logo for the show. So I'm guessing they are going to pull, and it's a big Hawkeye Kate Bishop thing, but it's not like the origin of Hawkeye and Kate Bishop either. So I think they're just going to kind of pull, because it is it's a very fun, like, because I kind of alluded to this before, but Kate Bishop is very much like Yelena, super sarcastic, super witty. So seeing those two interact, and Haley Steinfeld, I can totally see her playing that kind of Kate Bishop. So those two interacting is going to be insane. Like just the ultimate sarcastic like comments to each other. So yeah, I'm very stoked for that show. Mostly that run is very fun, but also Hawkeye doesn't have a family in that run either. He has this weird affair with this like spy girl, and I don't think that's gonna really come into play because he has a wife and kids. So there's
We'll see.
yeah, there's supposed to be this villain or sort of villain called Echo, which I believe she's like deaf or something, but she also held the Ronin mantle that we saw Hawkeye briefly have in Endgame that he, held through that 5-year gap and everything like that. So it could be attached to that. And then now we see that Val is sending Yelena after him, which I do think is going to get resolved pretty quickly because it's kind of just like a conversation that needs to happen to be like, hey, she sacrificed herself. I tried to sacrifice myself and she would not let me, pretty much kind of thing, which could be a very emotional scene. Because like I heard some people being like, it's kind of pointless. So it's just going to be a conversation that's going to be over. And I was like, well, they can still add a lot of weight to that conversation. So
Yeah.
it can still be a very, very cool moment. Rob did comment asking where the Netflix show is a part of the MCU. Technically, no. But the rumors are they referenced the Battle of New York, and I think in Luke Cage they reference the Hulk Abomination fight in Harlem as well.
Yeah.
It's kind of one of those things, kind of like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., where they reference the MCU, but the MCU never references them. But the rumors for almost all of them appearing, reprising their roles and appearing in some show or series makes me think that they have to be coming into the MCU. And I know a lot of people want it. The rumors of Charlie Cox returning.
I love Charlie Cox.
Kristen Ritter as Jessica Jones returning. There really only hasn't been rumors about like Finn Jones coming back as Iron Fist, which I have a theory that he'll come back in Shang-Chi and part of the tournament. That's my hope, personally. I know a lot of people didn't like that show. I didn't really care about the show. It was fine. But I liked him as Iron Fist. I know I'm alone in an island in that one, but that's fine. But I would like to see I can't remember the actor's name who played Luke Cage. I would love to see him come back. He was amazing. So if John Bernthal's Punisher is perfect.
Yeah.
So if all of them just get shifted because of multiverse or whatever, or they were kind of already here, I don't care how. If they do, down. I would love it. Yeah. But Meredith, let's get your thoughts on the post-credit scene.
I feel like everyone kind of touched up the same thoughts that I was already having, but I'm excited for this Hawkeye series for sure. I think Val might not be as bad as everyone says she's gonna be, so you never know. That's another thought I was thinking. Maybe there's like, I don't know, that she has a different motive maybe than other people are thinking, but you just don't know.
She did plan to blow up a truck full of super soldier people.
Yeah, all right, hold on, wait. But what about what about she kind of works? This is like going kind of far down, I guess. But what about remember when they try to take down the mutants because she doesn't think that there should be like any super soldiers, like maybe her team that she creates? Maybe that's like a way that the X-Men could get tied in. I don't know if that's me thinking way too far down, but you never know.
Nothing is ever too far on this podcast. No.
She partners up with Trask and like develops the Sentinels and stuff.
Dude, that was like that was another thing with WandaVision. They were like, when they said like artificial intelligence and stuff, I was like, Sentinels? Yeah. and then with them bringing Vision back, I was like, who would be a crazier Sentinel than fucking Vision? But obviously it wasn't the case. But it doesn't mean they weren't. It's not a building block for that to happen in the future. You know?
100%.
Imagine if the Sentinels are just Visions.
Creepy.
Oh, that's dope.
Except they all just talk and start talking about ships, and then it kind of just alleviates all the problems. Though that scene was amazing, and I will have to say, speaking of, you talked about visual effects, the fact that Vision's face is 100% CGI is the craziest shit ever.
For a TV show.
Insane.
Yeah.
I can't believe that. How did they do that? It's magic, I swear.
Mickey Mouse, man.
Yeah, seriously. So before we wrap this up, is there anything you guys want to say before we get out of here? I want to thank you guys very much for joining me. This was an amazing time, such a blast. I'm so happy you guys agreed to join me for this episode. Mike, anything you want to plug? Anything else you want to say before we get out of here?
Just thanks for having me. This is awesome. I don't really get to talk about fun stuff like this too often.
That's what I'm here for.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Anything to plug? I don't even know when we were announcing the release of our EP, so I probably shouldn't say anything. It's coming out before the year ends. I just know that.
It's good enough. Be on the lookout. It's amazing stuff. It made me emotional. A lot of things make me emotional, but it made me
Every
emotional.
movie.
A lot of movies do make me emotional. I'm not gonna lie.
Me too.
Meredith, anything you want to say before we get out of here, or plug?
I don't know. Plug. Thank you for having me. For one, it was nice to meet all of you too. I feel like
yeah, same.
you know, we were all kind of like strangers. Yeah, I've talked to Sean like a few times, but it was kind of nice like talking about, you know, the MCU and all these like different movies. Like I feel like we could have just a regular movie discussion and go on for hours. Like
oh yeah, easily.
So that was cool. But speaking of movies, real quick, that make you cry, the end scene to the Dark Knight trilogy, when he like the hero could be anyone, just as like simple as putting like a coat over a little boy's shoulders, knowing that the world like isn't over. Destroyed me. That scene was incredible. Sorry, I know we're talking about MCU, but
no,
I
have so much love for those movies. I have like this poster up here, which you can't see, is a Dark Knight poster. I can't get it.
Oh, I see. Is that a Matrix poster on the side?
Yeah.
On the side,
Wait,
it is.
One?
Yeah, I see.
Matrix. Yeah.
The blue and red pill. Yeah.
This whole wall is just like prints, but you can't see all of them.
Yeah, I see a few that I love the Matrix. I rewatched them. I was like, these were better than like when I was really young. I just didn't really understand half of what went on. Yeah. And then I rewatched them. I'm like, oh, they're actually really good movies. I hope they like redo them. Actually.
Oh, there's a fourth one coming out this year.
It's with Keanu Reeves, right? I know you're talking about that,
Yeah.
but okay, cool.
No trailer yet, but it's coming out this year. This is the
there.
year of like.
No.
I swear there's not even a Spider-Man trailer, which I don't care. I don't even care about a trailer. I'm gonna go see it anyway, but I don't believe that there is one, to be honest.
That one's gonna be hard though. I feel, dude, they could literally just like put his face and like one other villain, and it would be enough for everyone to go see it.
Yeah.
They don't have to do much.
No, not at all. Just, hey, Spider-Man comes out this day. See you there.
Yeah,
we're there.
Yeah, we're already there.
Already waiting in line.
Is there anything you wanted to plug?
Me?
Yes.
Or Austin?
You.
like your album that just came out?
Oh yeah, I know. Well, he mentioned it earlier, but listen to Volume 4.
You can't plug it enough.
Listen to Volume 4, Numb the Ache, and listen to Ghost Key. I know we've mentioned them. I know they're not doing things, or they're kind of coming back or whatever, but listen to Ghost Key and
they're just chilling. They're just chilling around music. Yes, listen to Distinguisher. They just put out a new song. A lot of new music came out yesterday. It was a crazy day.
Overwhelming again.
Yeah, I was like, oh my god, how many?
Friday.
I was like, how much new music came out today? This is. Because I usually don't listen to podcasts, so when new music comes out like that, I'm like, this is too much for me. I can't handle this. This is too much. But
I just wait.
That's fair.
I never listen to anything. Sorry, go on.
No, I was just saying I really like the Victims album, and I don't listen to a lot of music.
Thank you.
So I'm not trying
to
say
that's good. That makes me feel good. I don't listen to that much music.
It seriously reminds me of like the Kingmaker, like Sworn In, Barrier
that
kind
era,
of like that era, but newer. Which I'm not saying that like a sound like it gives me that feel.
Different take. Yeah.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
It's probably because we are from here.
But
I always want, like, I love those bands. It's really funny that everyone else in the band didn't really like those bands. Like our guitarist and John liked Barrier, but like Sworn In and Kingmaker was like not even on their radar. So
I love
it's
Chainmaker.
always it's crazy when that like we'll get the comparison when two of the members haven't even listened to their discography at all. So
That is
but
pretty crazy.
I love all those bands. So thank you.
Yeah, not a problem. Austin, final words and anything you want to plug.
One, I will always ride for Bane. Tom Hardy's Bane, like best villain of all time, even better than the Joker. No, I'm kidding.
I was like, I wouldn't go that far, but I do love him.
I love what he did in that movie. It's so funny. Dude, thanks for having us on. Nice to meet everybody. Stoked that we just get to be part of this culture where there's more movies and comic book stuff coming out like every single week. It's almost too much, but it's just an amazing time to be a nerd. And we're hitting the road soon, so hopefully we're going up the West Coast and down. So if you live on the West Coast, we might be coming to one of your cities and just listen to The Undertaking, listen to Victims, listen to No Bragging Rights, just listen to music and support everybody.
Yes.
See, look at you just had the better rundown. I feel like you just know. Like, I got it. Me, I'm like all awkward up here. I'm like, I don't know what to say. And like,
yeah, my band. I don't know, whatever. Cool.
Yeah, whatever.
I feel like that's something. I'm just in a band. Like, I don't know what else to say, and I like movies, and yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's honestly that's why I created this podcast, because a lot of people don't know the stuff people and bands are into. So, and I mean, I don't know half the time. Just like pretty much, Mike liked one of my tweets about Marvel or something, and I was just like, oh, he must like this stuff. I'm gonna message him and see if he wants to be on the show. That was pretty much it. It's like just stuff like that. I kind of wait to see if someone, and I'm like, oh, they must like this stuff. I was like, I'll have them on. Okay, cool.
That's how we got connected, because we were on Stay Noisy, and we're like, screw talking music. We just wanted to talk about Loki and Sweet Tooth, and so we went on this like huge rant about all these movies we were watching.
And then and then he like immediately hit me up after. He's like, oh, have you heard of this band? And I was like, no. And he's like, check them out. They sound like this, and they love nerd stuff. And I was like, oh, sick, cool.
Yeah, we had a blast talking to him.
Yeah, he's awesome dude. I'll have to have him on eventually. It'll happen.
I was gonna wait. I'm putting y'all on the spot real quick. Can you just, if you had to think about it, what's your top 3 movies of all time, any genre?
Eternal Sunshine,
okay,
Dark Knight, and Fight Club.
Okay.
Dang.
Good choices.
I know Fight Club's kind of like a cliche thing to say, but I love that movie.
Hey, it's a good
Dude, that's one of my top.
Hell yeah.
So,
all right, what's Mike? Your turn.
This can change tomorrow or like in an hour, but Fight Club, Batman Begins, and probably Donnie Darko.
Good choices. Good choices.
I'm a huge fan of Darren Aronofsky's The Fountain. Sunshine by Danny Boyle, that has like all the actors but they weren't famous then. I love that one, and I ride for the original Alien as much as possible. I love that movie.
Sigourney Weaver. Okay. Departed.
Oh, good movie.
Love The Departed. Batman, The Dark Knight, and La La Land.
La La
there we go.
Amazing.
The end scene is perfect.
I also have to say, probably in my top 5, if not, it's easily in my top 10. Insanely underrated movie, Warrior with Tom Hardy.
Yeah,
okay, that's a
Talk
really
about
good movie.
movies that make you cry. That movie crushes my fucking soul. That last. Also, shout out to Kurt Angle for being an unstoppable monster in that fucking movie.
Kurt Angle.
Hilarious.
Angle.
I have a friend who actually like worked on that in The Dark Knight, because they were as like a crew person, because they were both in Pittsburgh, filmed in Pittsburgh. So he got to work in both. I think he's in
that's really cool.
Which is wild. But he used to film the old Ghost Ship music videos, so he would tell us about all this crazy shit. And I was like, damn. I was like, those movies are 2 of like my favorite movies. I was like, you worked on them. It's crazy.
Speaking of, we're real quick. Sorry to talk again and being annoying.
No, you're fine.
I went to this bar like 2 months ago, and this guy goes, "Yeah, I was just casted like as like Carlton Fisk or something for like one of the new Marvel movies or something. Like I swear to God, I'm not even fucking with you. He's like from Chicago, and if you looked at him, you'd be like, oh wow, he would like probably be a good fit. But yeah, just throwing that out there. I don't
It'd be
remember what his
crazy.
name is. But
Also,
when I find it.
if this somehow catches wind, he could get fired because there's the NDAs. The NDAs for Marvel, I think,
you're
are
right.
like, or he might have just gotten sniped somewhere.
Yeah.
Or
The
all
Marvel
to
snipers.
Be fair, though, it could have been like not even like
Just got killed.
Yeah,
he got killed because
he's dead.
Right
A dead
now,
man's
dead.
blood is
Yeah,
on your
he's
hands,
dead.
Meredith.
But to be fair, I didn't name anyone's names. So
No, I know.
I
I
think I'm solid. Watch I'd be right though. That'd be funny if he's actually like in the show. Like
That'd be
if
crazy.
there's a show, I don't know. You never know.
You have to let me know if he ends up showing up. You're like, that's the fucking guy.
That's the guy.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's like I have
He
this
didn't,
friend
like-
who lives in New Jersey, and he's kind of been doing like marketing for Kevin Smith, and the whole
Okay.
like Clerks 3 being announced. I was like, dude, if you're a cameo in Clerks 3, I'm gonna be so stoked when I see you on screen. I'm like, I know that guy. I know him. Just to
Not-
have that moment.
I'm glad I don't remember his name because then if like if that was actually a possibility, I was like, damn, yeah, that would be kind of like
If you knew his name, I would have clipped that out and sent it to comicbook.com.
perfect.
Yeah.
Oh, Rob
Perfect.
said it's me. I don't live in Chicago, Rob. He just says everything is me.
It's me.
That's his bit. That's his bit. Anything that's a question that's a person, it's me. That's always the answer. Ongoing Rob joke. Oh, he says confirmed. It was me. Yeah.
Confirmed. It was him. Okay.
Yeah.
No longer to have to feel unsafe. No.
No, yeah, I'm not dead, so
I'm not dead.
you're good. You're good. Well, awesome. Again, thank you guys so much for joining us. We are going to get out of here. Keep on the lookout for the shirt that's going to go on sale next week. I might do a mailbag episode because there's nothing really new that came out for once, which is strange, and I don't know how to feel about it. But yeah, we'll see you guys next week, and thank you guys again for joining me. See you later.
Thank you
Thanks for having us.
us.
Bye, guys.
Bye.